Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another conversation and the series of these videos. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Noushin, and I have a passion for having the conscious conversation about our mind, body, soul connection and union. And for this series, I made so many videos in the past year, and this year I picked a topic of how to honor our soul by expressing our individuality and our uniqueness. And inside of that, I created a series of conversation or interviews with the people that I know they live their truth, they live their uniqueness, and they live their individuality widely in the world, in their workplace or their personal life and wherever they go. And today I have the honor and privilege of having Miss Sophia Olivas. And I just want to touch base on like the topics of Sophia's bio, because if I want to go through all of that, it might take all of our interview time. So, so Sophia is a passionate leader and visionary. She speaks such that people stop and they listen and they hear possibility for themselves and then boldly take action. Sophia is an international speaker and co-author of the best-selling book, When I Rise, I Thrive. She has spoken on large stages such as DevEx, the Breakthrough and Thrive Summit, and at the Conference for Global Transformation. She is keynote speaker at the Business Minded Women Conference and Mentor Mash, and with Arizona State University entrepreneurial programs. Sorry for my mispronunciation. Sophia is a United Nations Association candidate for the 2020 Rocky Mountain region. And Sophia is an avid traveler with a touch of wanderlust. She solo backpacks internationally for months at a time and has been to over 30 countries, picking up a few languages along the way. And since the early 90s, Sophia has been a technology inventor as the owner of Great Thorn Marketing, a web development company with an international portfolio. She's now a principal of a hedge fund that invests in blockchain technology. And I love this part also, among all others. In 2011, she met the Dalai Lama, starting her on a path of self-discovery, global awareness, and philanthropy. From that experience, she's co-founded the Hope Project and One Word Now Ventures, a nonprofit that there's some light, eradicates poverty by focusing on women's financial sovereignty. So let's speak to all of that. Wow.
It sounds so impressive when you read it with such a beautiful accent. Thank you.
It is impressive, as young as you are, and with all these experiences. Thank you.
Yeah.
So where do we start? Maybe from your path that you met Dalai Lama, so that set you on the path of self-discovery.
Yeah. Even maybe if we can go back before then, because I think that if I can stress anything to your listeners and your followers, I want to talk about my beginnings a little bit so that you have a basis for what's possible and what's available out in the world and what's available through self-mastery, personal development, ontological training, which you and I are both very avid fans of and participants in. So my journey began a long time ago when I was, during my childhood years, I was in a household where my father was incredibly abusive and all the 5 forms of abuse that there is. And I recall that there was a time when I was about 8 years old, my mother was sitting at the dining room table. And up to this point, my father had always put down my mother in front of us. Like it was like a daily occurrence. And so I remember seeing her sitting down at the dining room table and my father was standing over her. And my mother grew up in a time and a period where women's education, and she grew up in a location where women's education was just wasn't prized. And so she only had a 6th grade education. She was only allowed to go to school till 6th grade. And because of that, my father was trying to teach her how to balance a checkbook. And she just wasn't picking it up quick enough for his taste, for his liking. And I just remember him saying things like, "You're so stupid. How could I marry such a stupid woman? You know, I could have married this gorgeous redhead," things that he had said numerous times before. Then all of a sudden, I just saw him grab the back of her head and just smash it into the dining room table. So in that moment, when my mom lifted up her face, it was just flat and there was just blood everywhere. And that was an inflection moment in my life, because at that moment I was like, I made this connection that men, for women to be free, they have to have financial sovereignty. They've got to have control over their finances, so no man can have control over them physically, mentally, verbally like that. And it kind of set me on a path. And then I was very fortunate that I had mentors that came in and shaped and developed me through those tender years, some of which had participated in some type of ontological training back then that was called S, that progressed into landmark education. And from there, I left home at 14 and I preferred the streets over, what I was receiving at home, and I did way better. And throughout that course, I continuously fed myself. I read every book I could. Like I said, I had mentors that would take me and put me in programs. And I was very fortunate that I embraced education, because I knew that that was one of the tickets to my freedom. Like, even being on the streets and living on the streets, I knew I could walk into a library and tell the librarian, "I need help. This is what's going on in my life." And, librarians, you would think, you might think that they're just some studious thing, but they took me in, they gave me resources. They were even to this day, librarians are full of resources, not just books and materials, but I'm talking about community connections, shelters, anything. I mean, they are just those are these angels that I had when I was growing up. And as soon as I was able to get a passport at the age of 18, I started traveling. Every year for 3 to 6 months, I would solo backpack in foreign countries. And when I was in India, I was up in McLeod Ganges, which is at the base of the Himalayas in northern India. And just for us Americans, so let's just say India's here and here's the Himalayas and Tibet's on this side. And when the Tibetans flee Tibet, they traverse over the Himalayas and they are received in these receiving camps in a place called McLeod Ganges. And that is also where the Dalai Lama is in exile. And that's where his temple is. And I had the profound privilege that when I was there, the Dalai Lama was there, and I got to speak to him. And I will tell you, it was maybe 30 seconds that we spoke, if that. If you've ever had the opportunity to be in his presence, it's mystical, it's magical. Those are the things, the words that I really didn't partake to before that. But it was like this aura that people talk about around people. He just had this beautiful white light around him. And I think he touched my forehead. And I remember him telling me that to go to the receiving camps, that I would find something there, something along those lines. And so I went to these receiving camps. And as I mentioned, when the Tibetans traverse over, they are received into these camps, and they're rudimentary. That there's no, at that point in time when I went, there were no hospitals. There's no modern medicine or devices, and they're traversing. I mean, they're not outfitted in REI clothes. They're in their robes and their sandals or whatnot. And it takes anywhere from 15 to 30 days plus to go over the Himalayas. And so they're showing up with frostbite and burnt, black fingers and gangrene. And I just, I wasn't equipped for that. I mean, there's a reason why I'm not a first responder in any sense, whether a doctor, policeman, or any of that stuff. And, I'm just not cut out for that blood and stuff like that. And so I quickly was like, oh my God, what can I do in the face of all this? It's my first time learning about the plight of Tibet, and I didn't understand what was going on. And these poor people, they have no weapons, no self-defense. They don't do karate or any type of form of self-defense. They were just fleeing for their lives, and they had gunshot wounds in their backs, which means that the Chinese were shooting them as they were running away. I mean, and I was learning about all these things, and I was like, what can I do? And all I had was my camera on me. So I turned it on, and there was this monk that was from Kitty Monastery, which is the actual monastery that the Dalai Lama is from. And he had just come over the mountains, and I turned the camera on, and I said, what does hope mean to you? And this beautiful human being who had just witnessed the genocide of his people, he dispensed the most beautiful message about how he had so much belief and faith in the Chinese people, and how he was praying for their hearts to be open wide, and how he was praying for the world to see, to open their eyes and to see what was going on, and to come to arms about it, to fall into love. And it was at that moment that I got that it doesn't matter whether it's a man-made event or human, or a nature-made event. And in any case, be it man-made or nature-made, all it ever is. The reason why there's no good or bad, right or wrong, is because all it ever is an opportunity for humanity to evolve. And when you come at it from that sense, you can have love for anybody at any time in their plight. So.
Wow. What a profound story. I don't recall to knew that part of, your story. Yes. Yeah. That's amazing. And you took it obviously to the heart, and you just took it way higher than that. And that's where you are.
Yeah. So that started the Hope Project. And I just, every now and when I go, even when I'm walking about, even when I'm back home in the States, I just walk around and I'll walk up to people and I'll just videotape them, and I'll ask them, what does hope mean to you? And I just let them go. Because in that instance, you got to create it, and then it becomes something tangible for you. And it's wonderful to watch people walk through that transition. Some of it have it right off the bat, but some of them are like, hope, and some people even take the stance of, hope being, because there's a verb and then there's a noun, and there's like, I hope the 49ers win the Super Bowl. That's something that's non-existent. But when you talk about Martin Luther King and his hope for the world, his dream, that is power. And when you when you put that hope up against with action, and you back it up with action, that's how the world changes. That's how it transforms, and that's how movements begin. That's how revolutions and evolution.
Yes. What a beautiful way that you distinguish that, because, as I coach many people and I talk to many people, when we talk about hope, there's a lot of, I don't want to say misconception, but another perception that hope is for the hopeless, like when you don't have it and then you want to have it. But the way you distinguish it is take it to another level.
Oh, yeah.
That's where, transformation comes, because there is hope.
Yeah. I did a lot of studying about this, about hope, because I did come up with a lot of pushback from exactly what you were talking about. And I came across two studies. They were done independently at different times, but one was done by MIT and one was done by Harvard. They came to the same conclusion. And that's interesting. They pointed to in events where there were two people that experienced the same event, that were able to physically live through it, the initial event. What then had one person survive after that and one not, always came down to one thing, whether it was a plane crash in the jungle, whether it was a concentration camp, whether it was a POW. It always came down to the one that had hope survived. Now, conversely, where there is no hope, where there is apathy, where there is a despair, that's where you have North Korea. That's where you have things like that happen. That's the only time you can control people, is if they have no hope of a better chance, or of a different way, or of anything other than what they are experiencing in that moment.
Wow, yes. While you were saying that, it came to my mind the story of Wayne Dyer. There's so many people, they know him, that he has a twin brother, and they were just orphan, and then going through one foster home to the other, and very hostile situation as growing up. And then one brother, it became Wayne Dyer, and then the other one was in poverty and drugs and alcohol and all that. And when he became like the father of the spirituality in US, they were asking him what happened. And that was, he was saying that he was always staying in a good side, always, like even a penny in his pocket for him was a richness. And like believing in a good in people and the better tomorrow or the hope.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm, you know, we're talking about uniqueness and our self-expression and our uniqueness. You know, from a very young age, I wanted to start off with my story so you understood that leaving home at 14, you know, my chances, especially having gone through an abusive life and been sexually abused, verbally, physically abused, the statistics for me surviving, much less thriving on the streets alone, without getting, you know, being drugged up in a mental hospital, pregnant, or any of these things, you know, was incredibly low for me to survive, much less to thrive. So yeah, I knew from a very young age that it was temporary. And I knew that there was going to be a day when I would get away and I would be able to control my, you know, have my own body sovereignty, my own financial sovereignty, because even though I left home, there were all these laws that I couldn't even work to support myself because you have to be over a certain age. And like, well, what do you do then if you're on the streets and you can't legally go get a job? Well, then I had to go get a fake ID, you know, and I had to, you know, lie and stuff to get myself put into school. I had to have people pretend they were my parents and all kinds of things that I had to do against the law at that time just to, you know, I had to game the system just to survive and to ensure my chances. Like, you know, a lot of times the rules may look like and occur like they're up against you, like they're set up against you. And if you give in to that, well, you know where that path goes. But if you're willing to say that it'll go a different way, then it'll go a different way.
Yes. I just want to, with your expertise, I want to put like in parentheses that not to be, even though I restrict the video to over 18, but not to be advocate for the people that leave home. I just want to be really clear that in your case, it happened that not, you know, you're succeeding, you're thriving, but it was something coming from inside of you, not that everybody just like, oh, okay, I don't like home and I just want to leave home.
No.
We're not talking about that.
No.
I just want to make sure that we are clear. We are not talking about that. It's just like happened for you and in the past and your history that, you know, you had to leave at age of 14.
Yeah.
As you said, very tender teenage years. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm so happy when I hear people that get to, you know, live their whole childhood and sometimes even their college years with their parents. And I know some parents don't like it, but in some cities, Seattle, LA, San Francisco, they can't even move out. So they're in their 20s, they're still with their parents. And I'm like, that's fantastic. And I know they don't like that, but I'm like, that's fantastic. You get to, like, you have that relationship where you can, you know, you can. And I think that's wonderful. If you've got that opportunity, it's amazing.
And something, you know, in my culture, it doesn't matter if live at home or living, you know, in the Western countries, you know, you are with your parents until you get married.
Yes. Yes.
So it could be even 30 years or 35 years. So
yeah, you're right.
With your parents.
That's right.
It's all about, you know, the dynamic of the relationship and at home.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So what's your unique experiences of backpacking all these years, all these countries?
No, this is a passion I can certainly talk about. Yeah. So this is one of my addictions. I have two addictions: lemons. I put them in everything except for ice cream because that would be nasty, and then backpacking in foreign countries. So I solo backpack all throughout. I've been to 35 countries at this point, and that experience has absolutely brought the world into me, has broadened my perspective, has enlarged my heart, has just really given me purpose. So sometimes what that looks like, because I most of the time I go off the beaten path. So I show up in villages where there are no hotels or formal lodging. And I just have to trust. And I can't speak the language. I don't know the customs. I don't know anyone. And it's phenomenal because you've got to get your basic needs across and I'm taken in by these beautiful villagers and I've just got to reach out and trust that when I show up, somebody will have a room to put me in, a floor to sleep on, a couch. And then I end up cooking and having these phenomenal, just raw and authentic experiences with human beings. For the longest time, I was an ambassador for a organization that's called Couch Surfing. And if you don't know about it and you want to bring the world to you and learn, couchsurfing.org or couchsurfing.com. This is where you can host people from all over the world and you can go and stay with them. And it's a very authentic way to stay with people and you'll get to know them and vet them and everybody has ratings and they have to turn in their IDs. So, everybody's vetted. And it's just a wonderful organization that I've been a part of for over 20 years. And so I get to travel and just have these very authentic experiences with people. If I can just share one beautiful story, would that be okay?
Absolutely, yes.
So I am on an island in Lake Titicaca, which is the highest navigable lake in the world. And it's right by La Paz in Bolivia, which is the capital of Bolivia, but half of it's also in Peru. So it's shared by both countries. And I'm on this island and it's indigenous people that populate this island. And I'm staying with the captain of the boat that I came over on. Because once again, at the time that I went, there was no formal lodging. And so he was willing to put me up so that I could actually explore his island. And in the morning, he was doing his duties that he was doing on his boat. And he had two little girls. And I didn't speak their language, but it sounded like their mom told them to go wash up for supper. And I saw them go get this pail that was, pretty old pail. And they went to the water, which was, if you imagine it's the highest navigable lake in the world, even in the middle of summer, it's gotta be 40 degrees. It's freezing cold water, if that. And they grabbed this pail of water and then they went and got two big stones. And the girl was probably about 10 and the little one was probably about, I'd say 7. And they took the rocks, the stones, and they put them in the water and they were scrubbing themselves with the stone in the water. And I'm just watching this and I'm like, oh my God, that's how they bathe. And I remembered that I had this little beauty kit in my backpack. And so I'm telling them like, wait, just like stay right here. And I don't know if they understand me, but I run to my backpack and I grab my little beauty kit and I had some liquid soap, and those scrunchies that us women use, those little, those bath scrunchies that we use. So I dunked the little scrunchie in the water and then I put a little bit of liquid soap and they're watching this liquid soap going and, it smells like botanicals. So they're touching the soap and I'm like, oh my God, don't put it in your mouth. Like, no, because, they want it, they're smelling it and they're like, oh my, thinking they can eat it. But then they're like, the littlest one is grabbing the soap and she's making it like stick to her fingers. And then they're noticing bubbles coming out. And they're like, oh, they've never seen bubbles ever. And I'm trying to figure out how to make more bubbles because they're just giggling. And then I'm showing them and I'm washing their legs and their feet with this. All it was this scrunchy thing. And we had this to this day has been one of my most beautiful human moments in my life. And I left that kit with them. And I'm just tickled with the thought that however they used it or played with it or showed their friends or their mom or whatever they did with it, it's just one of those beautiful moments. And these are moments you can't recreate. And I really am an advocate for everybody, especially Americans, at least get a passport, please get out, please get some stamps in it, but certainly for women. Because I feel like when women travel, what you get to see is that commonality that bonds us, whether it's through motherhood or just through women, through sisterhood. And you get to see how much in common we are, like how we have the same hopes and dreams and aspirations and how we truly are the creators and the shapers of the future. Because the fact that we give birth to the children, we are the majority of the times the caretakers, like we are it. So that's why I'm such an advocate for women's financial sovereignty, because I firmly believe in the status The statistics and the data, they prove that when women are financially sovereign, when they are financially secure, they go further in education. They have kids later in life. They have less kids. They choose better domestic partners, and they take better care of their mental and physical health. So right there, you've eradicated poverty just by making the women better, because when women are given money, the whole community rises. Different when men are given money. And then, you know, you've alleviated violence, and you've then bolstered mental health. So that's why I'm such an advocate for that.
What the experience is just truly, to me, life is just like a snapshots, and, you know, so many experiences with the loved ones that we enjoy the same interest. But when you said Lake Titicaca, you know, my heart skipped a beat. You
saw
know,
that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, like, my own uniqueness in between. I have a passion to visit all 7 chakras of the earth.
Oh.
The 7 chakras in the body. There are 7 places that they
in the world
believe that it's in the world. And the second chakra is Lake Titicaca.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the first one was Mount Shasta, which I visited last year. And this year, it's my dream that how to make it happen to go to Lake Titicaca. And I spoke to so many people, the missionaries that they've been there, they, you know, traveled there. How it's gonna unfold, I don't know. So when you said Lake Titicaca, I thought, that's my next destination.
There you are.
I'm gonna go with all the order of the chakras, because the third one is in Australia, and I might have a plan to go in November. But who knows? So that's great.
It's great. Fantastic. I highly recommend it. It is very spiritual, as you know. You're going to learn so much. There are some tales that all the indigenous people share, even though they supposedly never knew each other. And they all share a commonality from where they're sourced. And it's that those with the brown eyes come from under the ground, not from Earth, from under the ground. And those with blue eyes came from space. And they'll tell you this story, and it's phenomenal, the way they talk about it. And then they'll show you all these locations where, knowing who you are, you're going to have this amazing, yeah.
Yes, I cannot wait, because, you know, we are talking about uniqueness and our individuality. You know, in the daily life, there's no juice for it for me. I do my work, I do whatever the best I can, because that's my life. But there is those moments that, to me, that's life, that's living. So, and you get to do it like in 2-3 months a year, and, you know, very fresh first experience. That's wonderful. I'm kind of like jealous now.
You know, so for the longest time, people would say, you know, 2 things, like, how do you afford that? And aren't you afraid? Because I go by myself as a woman. And I would love to just kind of dispel that, because you're touching on, I think, one, suspiciously, how do I afford it? So one is, I knew from a very early age, from when I was 18, I remember going up to the principal during career day and saying, let me get this straight. Because all these professionals showed up to tell us how to be a police officer, how to be a veterinarian. And I was like listening. And then I was like, let me get this straight. You're telling me that I have to go take out a loan to go to college to learn how to make somebody else rich. And it's going to take me 30 years to pay that off, in hopes that when I'm 65, I can hike Machu Picchu. So as I'm waiting for the principal, because apparently that was disruptive, and obviously I still feel vindicated in my way of thought, but I was like, God, these adults are backwards. Like, why is it when we know nothing, we're having to go work? And when we know everything, we're retiring? That's the reverse. We should be working later in our lives, you know, when we're physically a little slowing down, and we have so much knowledge and stuff to give back. And when we're young, let's go get out there. Let's go to the world. And I asked the principal, and I was like, what can I do from anywhere in the world? Now, I'm a lot older than she lets on. I'm about to be 50. And back then, you know, the internet wasn't a thing really, but I was like, you know, and the principal couldn't tell me, like, I don't know what you could do from, I don't know how to answer that. And I said, this internet thing, it's going to catch on. And I started doing web development. I taught myself how to code. Back then, there wasn't any classes. I mean, you got to teach yourself. And So to this day, I mean, I still do that stuff, and I have a web development company. So I made sure that I could make my business. Now, you, from pretty much whatever you're doing, I really challenge you. I've yet to find any type of field that you're doing that you cannot do it online somehow. So if you're saying that you want to travel, then do it. Set yourself up and start to ask those questions. How can I do what I'm doing, but do it online and begin to make money that way? And also do it while I'm traveling. If you want to physically have to do it, well, do it while you're traveling and set it up. The other thing is other than like Western countries like Europe, other than that, every time I travel, I save at least $10,000 a year by traveling, because it's so much cheaper. And especially if you have a house, Airbnb now, you can make bank. You can make so much money by renting your house out. It's completely insured for $1 million. Go rent out, go have the time of your life while your bills are being paid, and then go make money and get some experience and get some life.
Yes, and not having concern for all those bills that, when you are traveling, it's not easy for you.
You'll make money and you'll save money.
That's a great point. So just to respect to your time, and anything else that you want to touch on, because as I said, it's a wonderful, and I'm just even surprised that you said, I'm just bringing that up, that you are almost 50. It's just like, what? When that happened?
You're so cute. So thank you for this opportunity. And to get back to the heart of what we were starting with is your uniqueness. Like, many times people call me Pollyannic or some version of that, or unrealistic, and those things that make you, whatever your uniqueness is, that probably makes you feel the most alienated, is the thing that the world is waiting for from you, because you're the only one that can bring it. So whatever your gifts are, believe in yourself, believe in your path, and believe in the path of others. And the people that are saying whatever they say, you just want to give them a hug, because you know where they're stopped, but that's not where you're going to stop.
Yes. What a great wisdom that, because it happened personally to me, that, I always thinking that what's my complaint about the world, and that's my gift to the world.
Yes.
And then one thing, when I was going through a lot of tough time in my life, was just the family, the support, and the community. And that's what I provide. And that's my passion. And it comes, to these videos like this one. So it was such a delight talking to you.
It's a pleasure.
To know you in a different way, in a deeper way. And it's always so bright to just talk to you. And I'm not just saying because we are interviewing. You're always such a light. You're always bringing so much joy and passion to life. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I love you. And again, until we talk again.
Yeah. Namaste.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.